Well, today in your legal brief, we're breaking down a topic many don't like to discuss, but it's important to talk about. We're talking about divorce, and today we've got Nicole Sodoma here with us today from Sodoma Law. We got to talk about it. We have to talk divorce, right?
We do. We have to talk about it. I mean, at least 50% of the people we know are going to experience separation and divorce. That is still a statistic that's out there. So, yeah,
Right.
We have to talk about it.
Well, there are actually some trends that you see in divorce. Tell me a little bit about some of those.
So if I just looked at the number of consults that we see across all of our offices, I could tell you what months were popular, what months were not, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And sometimes it aligns with the school schedule. But
I believe that. I believe that.
Right. And so, but one of the things that I think is interesting is that more women initiate separation than men. And actually, we did a survey, an internal survey, and it matched almost exactly what Forbes did back in 23, that the numbers are really similar with women initiating separation more often than men. And then the third, I'd say, is age. I've been saying this for a long time, that women in their 40s, and it's true, women in their 40s, I think the number, it averages out between 42 and 49 between men and women. Those are the ages that are more likely to separate.
And what are some of the more common reasons that you see? I mean, obviously there's age and all those things, but is it just disagreements? Is it, like you said, the school season? What do you see there?
So, it doesn't always have to be super salacious, right? So it doesn't have to be that something awful happened. It doesn't always have to be infidelity or adultery or the domestic violence. It can just be a lack of commitment. And at a national level, that is what is really telling is one person believes there's a lack of commitment. Another is financial. If you asked a therapist and if you looked at the research, it would also be based on resentment, which is not something we talk about a lot. But if financial is the highest reason, which in our internal survey it was, I would say to also look at what is it in financial circumstances that is creating normally a resentment that leads to separation.
Right, that resentment can tie into all of those different categories, because if you're feeling this,
Yes.
it's gonna lead to that resentment. So obviously the process of going through a separation and a divorce is a very troubling time. What's the most difficult part of that people find?
So I think the most difficult part is the space between separation and divorce. Uncertainty is in all parts of our lives, but in that space, there is such a high degree of uncertainty in all things. And what parenting is going to look like, what support you're going to have, or what support you're going to be paying, how your stuff gets divided. It can be really simple or really complex, but that space between separation and divorce is a really scary time.
And one of the first steps that they're going to need to take is to reach out to someone like you and get this process started, right?
So to me, that's like the textbook answer, right? So you go to your financial advisor, you go to a really good lawyer who is in the area of family law. But the reality is that it takes two to say I do and one to say I don't. And to understand what happens in the event your partner comes home and says, I don't want to be married anymore, for whatever the reason, is what's so important is that you know what that looks like. So I would say, what would you do if you weren't afraid of finding out what that looks like on the other side, and to be prepared for it? Even if it never happens, there's no reason we shouldn't have an education about what it looks like on the other side in the event someone, you, your friends, your family, experiences separation and divorce.
That is very informative and definitely something that people need to keep in mind and be thinking about. You can go to sodomalaw.com for more information, reach out to you guys and get that process started if that's where you are. Thank you so much for breaking this down for us today. I know people don't like to talk about it, but it's important to know.
Thanks so much for having me.